What is up, my friends? In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing my 8-week experience using the peptide Dihexa. So, Dihexa, you can read about the science a little bit more. From what I understand, it binds to a certain receptor site, and that increases hepatocyte growth factor, and that causes synaptogenesis. It causes the growth of new dendrites as well as new synapses. It causes some neurogenesis in the hippocampus, and it's involved in a few other things. There's a ton of scientific literature. If you just want to get the mechanisms of action, I would recommend looking into that stuff. But in today's video, it's just going to be more about me personally, how I felt while doing the Dihexa, what I utilized it for, and what I plan to do moving forward. So just a brief, I don't know if you want to call it disclaimer, warning. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving health advice. Actually, let's go into what most people jump to, which is when you realize the strength and the power of Dihexa and how it increases this growth factor in your brain. Let's just talk about potential risks and side effects. Now, I'm perfectly aware. I actually compare this to things like IGF-1 and HGH. There's some good studies that show that high levels of HGH increase the quality of your life. So you will have more energy, you'll be able to build more muscle, you may be able to recover from injuries faster, you may be able to get a deeper night's rest, possibly mood boosting benefits. But then people who have lower levels of IGF-1 and HGH have a greater span of longevity. So we have to get this clear that quality of life and longevity are two different things. Now, there's also talk about cancer, and if you have a tumor, or if you think you possibly have a tumor, then Dihexa could increase the growth by providing new nerve cells as well as new circulatory pathways. Now, I know I don't have a tumor in my brain or in my body, and I do a lot of holistic health protocols. But just to get this clear, I know that it's not without risks. So I just want to talk quickly. The video is about Dihexa, but even knowing that I was going on Dihexa, I do, I regulate my sleep. I do exercise. I do daily meditation. I eat organic food. I regulate my circadian rhythms by getting outside. I practice the oxygen advantage breathing method to make sure that I have functional breathing. I do breath holds and I do recovery. I do sauna in the gym. I do cold showers. And I use a variety of different herbal medicines. Andrographis is an excellent antiviral that I've been doing. I use black seed oil, which helps get rid of some of the senescent cells. I've been doing the NMN protocol in the morning with resveratrol to help the DNA repair. I use some Chinese herbs such as schizandra, which is really good for the liver. I use some of the other ones, astragalus, also good for DNA repair, good for the immune system. I use he, shu, wu, good for the kidneys. I try to cycle different supplements, make sure that I just have a good amount of nutrition, like from a healthy multivitamin and fish oil. So I'll do coffee enemas every once in a while. I do other forms of cleansing my body and detoxifying, intermittent fasting. I really do a lot. I really do research because I was in a state where I was sick before. So this whole video is not going to be about that, but I just wanted to kind of get that clear that I'm not ignorant to the fact that I know this is a new compound. And I do a lot of things to make sure that my body is healthy. I also have a great internal awareness, and I can feel when things are good for my health or not. And not even our brain, our cells in our body actually reacts to things, which is why muscle testing has been proven to be pretty effective for people, even for testing things like allergies and things like that. And I do a form of self-muscle testing. So let's get right into my actual experiences with the Dihexa. Now, my first week and my first time taking it, it was probably the strongest. And that was when I got back into playing basketball. I had probably played basketball 1 week before doing Dihexa a little bit. And then the first day I did it, I hopped into a more serious game. And as soon as you can get my first day, because I wanted to get the first day while it was fresh. So if you check like my previous video where I talk about Dihexa, I kind of get into that first day. That, you know, first day where I got into playing basketball, I got into doing rock climbing, and I felt this tremendous boost, as well as like my cardiovascular system, meaning I practice oxygen advantage. So when I run, I'm only doing nasal breathing. Because when we exercise, our carbon dioxide levels go up, and most people expel the volume of air equal to the amount of exercise they're doing, so they're not actually acclimating to higher levels of carbon dioxide, but as they exercise more, they offload more. But when you run or you exercise and you nasal breathe, it's actually like doing breath holding in the sense that you can get into an intermittent hypercapnic state. So for a brief period of time, you can have higher levels of carbon dioxide levels in your blood, which is a good thing. So I do the Dihexa, I run while doing nasal breathing, and I'm noticing that I can run longer and still maintain just nasal breathing without feeling a greater sense of air hunger. So I think there is something going on with Dihexa being able to increase our aerobic capacity. Now, when I read about it, I read that Dihexa actually has a vasoconstriction effect, which is contrary to what I would think because, you know, carbon dioxide's a vasodilator, nitric oxide's a vasodilator, and these are some of the chemicals that you increase by doing these breath practices. So there's more to research there, but I can tell you from a subjective standpoint, over the course of the 8 weeks, when I do the Dihexa, I notice this increased aerobic capacity in my body. Now, I've also read, and I was looking for the article, that Dihexa has a benefit on the motor cortex. And I can say that I think that this is absolutely true. My ball handling skills the day after, so I'm going to go into basketball. My ball handling skills the day after I do Dihexa are always greatly improved. My shot percentage is greatly improved. My rock climbing seems to be better. I'm able to do a higher grade climb. I'm able to find more flow. I'm able to find more sequences. So what I would recommend for anyone actually serious about doing Dihexa is to get yourself into not just physical exercise. Physical exercise is great, but possibly try to do a sport or something where you have to learn a physical skill. So I gave my friend some Dihexa because I ordered too much, and he's playing baseball. So I'm looking forward to hearing how his results go because he's pitching and he's batting. These are things that require a lot of brain power. Doing basketball, there's a program called Fighting Monkey, which blends martial arts style movements with dance and has sequences of movements that could be maybe 8 to 15 movements in a row that you're asked to memorize. Things like this, I think, are really powerful, under-researched ways that we improve our memory, our visual, spatial coordination, and like just these multi-joint coordinative patterns. I think it has this great effect on our brain and our nervous system. So next, I'm going to go into how the Dihexa affected me during my driving training. Now, just to be clear, I did Dihexa every week of my driving training, so I don't have driving experience without doing Dihexa, unfortunately, to give you like a before and after or a with and without effect. Now, by driving training, I'm in CDL school, so I'm learning how to drive a 10-speed truck and also remember all the parts of the truck. So there's a lot of just memorization that I have to do to pass my pre-trip inspection, but I also have to learn how to back and maneuver that truck for a skills test. And when you turn left with your wheel, your trailer's going right, not like a car where your back tire is going to go left when you turn left. And besides that, I don't have a lot of experience with shifting gears, so it's very new handling the vehicle, and it's very new with shifting the gears, and it's new with having to memorize everything. My driver trainer told me I have one of the best memories when it comes to the recall of remembering the pre-trip inspection. I'm able to get it really fast. I feel like I've been progressing on that. Every week I progress on my ability to shift gears, to upshift, to downshift, as well as I'm making progress on the skills test. Now, I'm not like some accelerated student where I'm just moving faster than the others. I'm actually doing it in semi one-on-one, so I'm just relying on feedback from my driver trainer. He's very patient with me, he's a great instructor, and he tells me I'm making good progress. So what I can say is that I feel good at school. It can be high stress to be behind the wheel of a big vehicle and shifting gears and handling the vehicle, and Dihexa also seems to be able to lower the anxiety. Dihexa and Oxygen Advantage, because I do my breath holds before I go, where I harness a little bit of carbon dioxide just by breathing in, out, and then these very light breaths. So by doing light breathing and small breath holds right before, I'm able to harness carbon dioxide and nitric oxide. Both are anti-anxiety, and both have a positive effect on the vagus nerve. But with the Dihexa, there's even an increased amount of an anti-anxiety effect, but not in like so much where like I'm just so chill that I don't realize that what I'm doing is a high risk. It's like I'm perfectly aware that I could run over a curb, hit another car, or like break the clutch by messing up. But at the same time, I'm not overly panicked or overly focusing on what could go wrong. I attribute that partially to just practicing the power of positive thinking, and I do visualization where I'm imagining myself driving just like my instructor, where I'm very relaxed, I'm comfortable behind the wheel, and I know what I'm doing. I actually do guided hypnosis with something called brain tap. I can make a video on that later, but it's for programming the mind, because if I'm growing these new synapses, it's also important that I focus the mind, and we do something called synaptic pruning. So with the Dihexa, I make sure that I do a meditation and I get good sleep, because I don't want extra synapses if I don't need them. And I make sure to do the visualization as well as the visualization, the guided hypnosis, and the positive thinking, because if I'm growing new synapses and making these new neural connections, I want to improve the positive aspects of my thought process, of my neuronal connections and the pathways. So now let's just get into some more nitty-gritty details. For me, when I take Dihexa, I feel the effects almost instantly. Now, here's what I've learned. Always wash off your arm. I use my arm because I have a lot of vasculature. My Dihexa I got from science.bio. I know they're going out of business, so I don't know if you can still get it from them, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it if you search enough online. But I always clean off my arm very well. I apply right to my forearms. I started with 8 milligrams, because 1 ml is 1 mg, so I did 8 ml, which equals 8 milligrams of Dihexa, and I moved up to 10 milligrams of Dihexa. Right to the forearm, cleaning my forearm before. Expect a burn for about 10 to 20 minutes. Now, for me, I feel the effects instantly, but the effects become strong within maybe 30 minutes. The effects become strongest within a few hours, and even within 5 hours, very strong. 6 hours, very strong. But the good thing is that it doesn't mess with my sleep. So I still get a good night's sleep with Dihexa, but I make sure to do it in the AM because I want to experience those good benefits. Day 2 is almost as strong as day 1. Day 2 with Dihexa is great. It's still very noticeable that the cognition is better. There's also speech, verbal fluency is better. But what I notice is that I ask more questions. When I meet people, I just get into deeper conversations, and Dihexa sparks a curiosity in my mind. I ask my driver trainer more questions. So I'm constantly asking questions. I'm not scared of failure. I do attribute that partially to the growth mindset, because it's like if we're scared of looking stupid, we're less likely to actually ask questions, and we're less likely to learn. So I've really implemented the growth mindset into my life, but honestly, doing the Dihexa has upped that mindset, where I'm just very curious and I ask a lot of questions, and my communication skills has definitely improved. But where was I? What was I talking about before the verbal fluency? Oh yeah, just the daily cycles. So day 2 is still very strong, but I would say maybe a 20%, 15% drop off from day 1. Day 3 is still noticeable, but probably 50% to day 1. And then on day 4, I actually don't notice anything. So it's kind of like that. I mean, maybe a little bit blurry with the percentages that I tried to give, but that's the way it is for me. And week to week, my first 4 weeks were very strong. On week 5, I noticed it was probably a little bit less strong, but still very noticeable. Week 6 dropped off a little bit. Week 7 and 8 were a little bit weaker. So next time I would do it, I would probably maybe just do a 6-week cycle, because that's really where the bulk of the benefits seem to be, although there are still benefits for me for those last 2 weeks. Now, as far as stacking goes, I did use phenylpiracetam before school 1 or 2 days, and I noticed a great benefit with that stack during the school. But for the following days, I actually noticed a little bit of depression. So I'm kind of staying away from doing any piracetam or stacking Dihexa with piracetam. What I'm looking at now is using Bacopa monnieri. I'm reading about great benefits from that for improving memory, for also lowering levels of anxiety, and it has a lot of other health benefits as well, heart health, lowering the cholesterol, and there's a lot of good stuff going on with Bacopa. So that's definitely an herbal alternative that is worthwhile checking out here. So I'm also looking into cerebral lysine. So that's something I'm going to be starting soon. And when I do the cerebral lysine, I will also be posting about my experience there. So I think that's it for the Dihexa video today. Last thing is for cycle. Me personally, I'm probably going to take a break, and then depending on the demands of my job and my life, I'll consider going back to it. So I don't have a set dosing cycle. It's definitely not something I'm just going to do continuously. I may consider it once every 3 months to run a cycle, once every 6 months to run a cycle, or possibly once yearly to run a cycle. And this is going to depend on how I feel like I'm managing the demands of my new career, and how I feel like I'm managing my life. Do I need the extra boost in cognition? Is there going to be longer lasting effects that I could just notice without taking it? So these are all things that I'm researching, I'm interested in. Doing more skills training, so I'm learning some new skills as far as just like juggling. I'm doing things with penmanship and writing. I'm going to be learning video editing, as well as just learning how to